You've probably heard the story of the two young boys that were at home and they were having breakfast, and Mom was making pancakes, their favorite, and the two boys were arguing over who was going to have the first pancake. And Mom said, "Now, if Jesus were here, he would let his brother have the first pancake." And so the older brother looks at the younger brother and says, "You be Jesus." We very often look and we say, our lives are built around this understanding of power, at least in the world, right? That we look and we say, how can I have authority? How can I have power? How can I dominate? And that's exactly the opposite of the Christian worldview. The Christian worldview is never about power or domination or being in authority, but it's always about service. Every authority in the church is about service. And it is in serving that we become like Jesus, who came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. And so a lot of times when we hear people arguing and saying about how the church does this and how bad the church is about this and that and the other thing in terms of its structures, a lot of times it's because they're saying, well, this person should have power or that person should have power. And that's the exact opposite of everything there is in Jesus' heart. It's not about power, but about service. James and John come up to Jesus and they say, we want to have power. We want to have authority. We want to be at your right and at your left in the kingdom of heaven. And if any of you have seen The Chosen, you know that they're kind of spurred on by their mother, which the Gospel of Matthew actually has the mother coming, and that they're coming and they're saying, oh, well, what could it harm? You know, that we'll kind of get it first before the other guys. And the others, of course, are indignant at this. But Jesus is saying, you don't know what you're asking for. Do you know where my throne is? And if we pay very close attention, we can see that his throne is right here on the cross. Here is his royal dignity, the crown that he wears. This is the gift of royal dignity that God gives to us. It says, to sit at my right and my left. We know who that was, right? There were two thieves on the cross with crosses with him. Jesus says, you have to see, it isn't about lording it over others, but about humble service. Now, does that mean that we don't have any sort of authority? No, we have to take some sort of authority, but that's authority, you know, as a parent, for instance, over your children. It's never about, well, I want to lord it over you, but it's about, I'm serving you to help you to grow, to become the best person that you're meant to be. We see that, and it's kind of obvious in family life, but it's also what it's supposed to be in government. Civil servants, anyone ever heard of that? Supposed to be serving the people, not after, well, we're not going to get into politics here. But we look and we say, it's about, all authority is about service. Can we go to the lowest place? God's grace is like water. It goes to that lowest place. It always goes to the bottom. We look and we see it's those who humble themselves when they recognize, I'm broken, I'm sinful, I need God's help. That's where God's presence abides. You know, the story in the Gospel of Luke about the Pharisee and the tax collector. Pharisee's up front and says, you know, I'm so great. And it says he's praying to himself. I'm so glad, you know, I give tithes, I do this, I fast, and all this stuff, and I'm not like that guy back there. Where in the back, the tax collector is saying, be merciful to me, a sinner. And God says, that's the one that goes home justified. You see, our worldview is skewed. We see this every time we turn on the television, read the news, look at anything on the internet. Our worldview is skewed because it makes us think, I need to be striving for power. I need to get to the top of the mountain. I'm not sure if any of you played this growing up. I'm not sure you can anymore because of insurance and everything else. But growing up, when there was a big snowstorm at the school, of course, they'd plow all the parking lots and stuff up into these big mounds of snow. And we used to play King of the Mountain. Some of you remember that, right? And what's the purpose of King of the Mountain? You got to get to the top. And you push others down and you knock them over. And as you're trying to climb and become king of the mountain, you're trying to knock the guy at the top over. And I was never that athletic, so I rarely got to the top of the mountain. But those 2 or 3 times when I was actually the king of the mountain, what happened? Within 5 seconds, I was knocked down, and I'm sliding down the mountain to the bottom. And I have to get back up again. And that's the exact opposite of what Jesus is asking for us today. Saying not to be the king of the mountain, rather to be at the bottom, helping those who've been knocked down get up. Do we recognize that we're called, like Jesus, to serve? This is where our greatest dignity is. And this is the incredible thing. This is the incredible thing. If Jesus said, if you are to follow me, if you are to get into heaven, if you are to be great in the kingdom of heaven, you must be a king, a ruler, a lord. You must be able to do miracles and these other things. If that were the requirement, there'd be a precious few that could get to the kingdom of heaven. But anyone can serve. Anyone can be at the bottom of the mountain. There's plenty of space. Any one of us can serve, in whatever capacity we have. In families, brothers and sisters can serve each other, looking to see not what I can get, but what I can give to others. Yeah, I see a lot of parents saying, yeah, that's going to happen, Father. Right. Well, okay. And parents, of course, serving their child. And that doesn't mean, of course, that in serving our children, we bend over and say, oh, you want a new iPhone? Okay, you can have a new iPhone. It doesn't mean that we just bend over and do whatever they want. But it means we look and we say, how can I best help this person to become the best version of himself, of herself? How can I help this person to grow, to learn and love what this means? When we look in our work, are we constantly knocking people over to get to the top and being knocked over by others? Or are we serving others there? Even if I know there are some who can't even do anything because of their physical problems or their mental problems, and yet all of us can pray. All of us can serve others by praying for them. Do our worldviews need to be changed? Not in terms of what people are doing out there, but in terms of me, how I live my life. Am I searching just for number one, or do I reach out to serve so I can be united with Jesus, who came to be among the least, the lowest, the servants?